Greetings, friends, my name is Patriot, and now we will dive into the top news of this day. The 8th air attack on Kyiv since beginning of May. Again, the 8th attack in 16 days. Every 2 days, residents of the Ukrainian capital sleep in corridors, subways or bomb shelters because of a rabid neighbor. This time, the enemy launched a complex attack from different directions at the same time, using drones, cruise and ballistic missiles. It was exceptional in its destiny, the maximum number of attacking missiles in the shortest period of time. The vast majority of enemy targets in Kyiv's airspace were identified and destroyed. 6 Kinzhal air ballistic missiles were fired from 6 MiG-31K aircraft. 9 caliber cruise missiles were fired from ships in the Black Sea, and 3 land-based missiles S-400 Iskander-M. All missiles were destroyed by the forces and means of air defense of the armed forces of Ukraine. In addition, on the night of May 16th, the enemy attacked with attack drones of the Shahed type and also conducted aerial reconnaissance with 3 operational tactical drones, Or-110. All are destroyed.
Russian terrorists have no chance of prevailing over Ukraine. Their weapons can and should be countered by Western ones. Thank you to our Air Force service members and our partner states who invested in securing the skies over Ukraine and all of Europe. Let's win together. Alexei Reznikov, Minister of Defense of Ukraine, on Twitter.
Fallen debris was recorded in 5 districts of the capital. The biggest damage was in the Solomiansk district. There was a fire in a non-residential building and several units of automobile equipment. The fire has been extinguished. The Kyiv Zoo was affected too. Today, animals will be given anti-stress measures. Debris also fell on parked cars, the adjacent territory of the poorest park zone. There are no victims. Once again, tonight, Ukrainian air defenses shot down 6 Kinzhal missiles. 2 weeks ago, they were considered indestructible because they fly very fast on a ballistic trajectory, but thanks to the defense system of our Western partners, we once again showed that Russian weapons are just for show. Even during the parade in Moscow last year, daggers or Kinzhal were called anti-aircraft killers, and this year there were no planes in the parade, no daggers, no hitting the target. Although, if you listen to the Russian news, then they were able to destroy the points of deployment of Ukrainian troops, warehouses of ammunition and equipment from Western partners, as well as the Patriot air defense system. In a word, where they aimed, they got there. It is possible for them to have a hippopotamus in the capital zoo, their goal, but they couldn't get there either. By the way, according to the rough calculations, the Russians spent about $125 million on missiles launched over the capital. And all for what? As Alexei Kopytko, advisor to the Minister of Defense, wrote, the reason could be the visit of the Special Representative of China announced for today. On May 16th-17th, the arrival of the Special Representative of China to Ukraine was announced, and it is possible that the Russian daggers were supposed to hit the objects of state power on the eve of the visit of the Chinese representative, to create the necessary background for putting pressure on Ukraine. But thanks to Ukrainian air defenses, there is no pressure, and now Beijing has to figure out how to get out of the current situation diplomatically. China's special envoy Li Hui will arrive in Kyiv today. This is the first high-ranking Chinese official to visit Ukraine since the start of a full-scale war. As part of the tour to promote peace negotiations, he will also travel to Russia, Poland, France and Germany. Li Hui intends to discuss with all parties of the conflict the ways of its political settlement. According to the Chinese Foreign Ministry, the diplomat's tour will once again demonstrate China's commitment to negotiations and that China is firmly on the side of peace. The Chinese delegation will be in Kyiv today and tomorrow. Li Hui's 2-day visit was announced by several foreign media, citing an unnamed representative of the Ukrainian government. Let me remind you that on the first anniversary of the full-scale invasion, China published its peace plan to end the war against Ukraine. Its emphasis of the need to respect the sovereignty of countries, the cessation of hostilities and the resumption of peace negotiations, and the admissibility of the use of nuclear weapons. But at the same time, the document criticizes unilateral sanctions and calls the war only a Ukrainian crisis. It is important that the head of the delegation, Li Hui, worked in Moscow for many years on a special peace mission, has Russian awards and personal gratitude from President Putin. Therefore, it will be difficult to wait for a breakthrough. At the same time, our government welcomes any attempts by other countries.
We welcome any peace effort, whenever it comes from. Given first, this peace effort does not imply that Ukraine has to cede part of its territory to Russia in exchange for the end of war, and second, this war does not get frozen. Any peace plan that does not lead to freezing the conflict or Ukraine ceding territory to Russia, we are ready to discuss. Dmytro Kuleba, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, in an interview with CNN.
I also want to recall the phrase of Volodymyr Zelensky during a press conference at the end of April. China is preparing a special representative, not for Ukraine. They are preparing a special representative for the states of Europe, who will travel around Europe to talk about the war. And the fact that Li Hui will come to Ukraine first is a good sign. Firstly, we will be the first to tell about our plans, and already knowing them, the Chinese diplomat will go to other countries. Although it seems to me that our government has repeatedly talked about them with European partners. Earlier, Volodymyr Zelensky said that during a conversation with the Chinese leader Xi Jinping, he promised that China would stand aside from the conflict and would not support Russia with weapons. Let me remind you that the EU High Representative Josep Borrell said that Beijing had already lost the opportunity to mediate in the war unleashed by Russia, since its neutrality was more of a pro-Russian orientation. Russia is a threat for the entire Asian region. The largest uranium deposit in Kazakhstan came under control of Rosatom. Together with him, the Stepnogorsk mining and chemical combine went to the Russian side. This deal became known only from the published financial statements of Kazatomprom, the national nuclear company of Kazakhstan, the world's largest producer of natural uranium. If for the majority of Kazakhs the information about the uranium deal went unnoticed, then the Russian media presented it as a sensation. They stated that control over one of the largest deposits in the world will provide Rosatom with the necessary raw materials for many years. Over the past decades, Russia has used its ability to export energy resources as an instrument of political pressure on other countries. Kazakhstan, having transferred uranium assets, found itself in an even more dependent situation on the Kremlin. Growing dependence on the Kremlin, both economic and political, could eventually turn into a catastrophe for Kazakhstan, and the authorities may no longer have the right to freedom of decision-making over time. Before the full-scale invasion in Ukraine, Putin might put Kazakhstan high on his list of countries awaiting retribution. For him, Baikonur can be no less precious than Sevastopol, and preparatory hints have already been dropped about ethnic Russians suffering discrimination in Kazakhstan. Yet the time for such dreaming has passed. Having flexed his muscles in Ukraine and done it so feebly, Putin put all the ex-Soviet republics on their guard. If Moscow were to turn on them, the Russians would find not only that the Kazakhs have powerful friends, but also that China might now regard Central Asia as its near abroad, not Russia's. However, we can expect a new attack from the Russian dictator in any direction. It is good that the Ukrainian armed forces are doing everything to weaken the Russian army now. That's all for today. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for future videos. Subscribe to our channel and goodbye.